This is Things You Might Not Have Heard. I am Jake Payne, and today we're doing it live, trying to see if our streaming program will work back with no links and no lag going back and forward. So what I have for you here is, well, as I said, Things You Might Not Have Heard. Jake Payne is here, and 8 stories in the queue for this Tuesday from yesterday's conversational topics. And you help deem these stories as conversational. You help pick these stories for today. They cover politics, current events, pop culture, and information news. And of course, we're going to do some Donald Trump, but we're also going to make a quick pit stop to the president of El Salvador. It has some interesting things to say about what's going on in his prisons. Also, Paige Bueckers is now a newly minted thousandaire. And we go to Hungary, where something very serious is happening that may not be a repercussion here in the States, but something that you may want to think about as rights are being taken away all over the world. Our sponsor for the day is Robinhood again, so check out our website link. This is conversationproject.com/Robinhood for a free stock and all the investing you want to do for no commissions. And remind you that to get in on what we do here at the Conversation Project, it's simply following us at our feeds on Facebook and X. We'll talk about those in a bit. Go into our website. This is conversationproject.com to learn about what we do. And of course, the big thing is the conversation part is emailing back and forth to chat, the conversation inbox at gmail.com. Conversation Project is a dialogue and a monologue, and today's dialogue covers stories that were covered for Monday, but we'll predict them for Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. It is tax day, by the way, and we will do some context going forward on how some stories did not get in because other things got bumped. Some really big things happened yesterday, but we'll give you some context in those as we go along. Starting off with the context, that is the meeting with the president of El Salvador and the president of the United States, and the statement by El Salvador Presidente, refusing to return mistakenly deported man to U.S. Now, it's a bit more nuanced than that, but what we have is the El Salvadorian president, Nayib Bukele, hopefully I got that right, refused to return Kelmar Albergo Garcia, the Maryland resident mistakenly deported to the U.S., despite a Supreme Court order directing Trump to actually do something about that. Now, where the issue comes from is the word facilitate. The Supreme Court said they must facilitate, and Pambani says, well, that means we need to give a plane, but the president of El Salvador actually has to give them up, and the president of El Salvador is like, no, we can't do that. He sort of went into why we can't do that, but the whole point is he's a president, and he just doesn't feel like doing it, period. Now, what do we actually get from El Salvador with this exchange? El Salvador gets $20,000 per head per year for the prisoners we send out there. So the more prisoners we send, it's an incentive to bring them in there. So sending them back is a loss of 20 grand. There you go. But also what's really stated here in the actual dealings for Garcia, who's been in the States since 2011, he actually came in on some bad visas, bad paperwork, and was essentially, according to Pambani, a member of a gang at some point in time and was going to be deported. That was put on hold. He was granted a temporary hold from deportation, and then now he was sent to El Salvador as part of this pull for the gang, El Salvadorian gangs going there. So it is a big old kerfuffle on what's going on. But the big thing is the president of El Salvador says he doesn't really think he has to do anything. And since Trump administration has to just facilitate, that means they can, have a way for him to come home if they let him go. But they don't have to actually ask for him to come back, so they haven't really asked him to. They said it's up to him, and he says, I'm not going to do it. So there you go. There are deeper, darker, and more sinister legal debates about this whole thing, separation of powers, how presidents can interact with each other, how the fact that Donald Trump asked for favors for Ukraine and didn't get them, and we're in that situation, and he's not asking for favors from this guy, but we're paying him to house prisoners. Oh, by the way, Trump wants to send our prisoners, our United States citizens, there as well. Since, then we don't have to deal with it. We just pay a little check and they take care of them. $20,000 seems like a nice little discount for taking care of prisoners where they're not going to take care of them in any humane manner. We'll see how this one plays out because it's not over quite yet. So the story popped up yesterday or the day prior, and we got more details on what was happening. Trump was sending more troops to the border of Mexico and the United States. And what's going to happen eventually is U.S. Army is going to control that land on the Mexican border as a base. So there'll be Forts USA or something like that. And then the migrants, if they actually wander into their base, they can be detained instantly. It takes away any sort of due process, any sort of processing. If someone is wandering on an army base, on army base, you arrest them, period. And you send them back across the river just violently if you want to. This is going to happen as they assume control over a segment of federal land along the U.S.-Mexico border. It's known as the Roosevelt Reservation and is part of a new military base initiative. So a new base Roosevelt, whatever, will there. And the move will get Donald Trump the ability to essentially border to patrol with United States troops because they're controlling their own land, their own reservation, their own base. And if they come across the line, you send them back. It's a 60-foot wide strip of land that spans parts of Arizona, California, and New Mexico, managed by the Department of Interior, but now been transferred to the Department of Defense. Administration contends that by designating this area as a part of a military installation, Army can legally detain trespassers just without any violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. Essentially, what makes people free to wander back and forth and have some sort of due process is now done because military involvement. You're now walking into a military base, as I said before. A 45-day trial period will commence the Army overseeing the section of the Roosevelt Reservation in New Mexico, east of Fort Huachua. During the time, additional fencing and signage will be installed to deter unauthorized entry. Migrants apprehended in this area will be handed over to local civilian law enforcement in the moments. Very concerns for legal experts because that's what Trump does, being lots of various concerns for legal experts. One expert on presidential emergency powers noted that for military purpose doctrine to apply, the prime mission must be not law enforcement. Given that the main objective here is border security, that kind of falls under the line of law enforcement. About 7,100 active duty troops and 4,600 military active National Guard members are along the border right now. This will become something of a permanency going forward in the near future. I'm not sure how well the accommodation will be at this new base, this new fort at Roosevelt Reservation, but it's a big deal for the Trump administration. Trump appointed an official who oversaw USAID dismantling leaves State Department. Now, I said earlier there were some mini stories today that got bumped. In the teaser part and in the promo part, we'll talk more about some love for Elon Musk. That's going to come reluctantly, but it's coming. But one of the stories that's not getting covered today is the fact that Harvard is fighting back on the Trump administration's asks, and Harvard's being held back $2 billion for the case. Why? Because this is a story that's going pretty quiet. Got pretty slipped into the cracks and into going there. There'll be plenty of time to talk about Harvard and education going forward. But Pete Marocco, the Trump-appointed official who played a central role in the dismantling of the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, if you will, abruptly left the department position as director of the Office of Foreign Assistance at the State Department 3 months into his tenure. Basically just got started, did this work, and he's gone. During his brief time in office, Marocco oversaw significant reductions in foreign aid, reportedly slashing 83% of USAID's overseas funding. He also clashed with Secretary of State Marco Rubio over the extent of these cuts, with Rubio advocating for the preservation of critical humanitarian programs. So by my interpretation of this, he actually wanted to cut more than 83%. There were some things that Rubio was like, no, we actually have to keep this stuff. And this guy was like, no, let's go ahead and cut it. His departure follows a White House meeting where he was asked to turn in his credentials. Despite his exit, State Department is proceeding with plans to integrate remnants of USAID and reduce staff anyway. The dismantling of USAID has raised concerns around international partners, with European countries facing their own budget constraints, struggling to fill the gaps left by the reduction in U.S. aid, foreign aid, and potential impacting for global humanitarian efforts. If we're not there to give a bunch of money or be there in support, other folks have to step in. And when we're not there as a large whole, other folks stepping in are finding they can't quite step in going forward. Aggressive cost-cutting measures and controversial approach to foreign aid is what Marocco's tenure will be marked by. So if that's what you're going for, it's a plus. If it's not what you're going for, then you'll have to go someplace else. Where's the next place else? We shall see. President Trump is attacking CBS again, because he did attack against the report on CBS and also for 60 Minutes for the Kamala Harris interview from about a year or so ago. But CBS should pay a big price, so says Trump, for its coverage, and 60 Minutes exactly. Now, last weekend, Donald Trump was really, really mad at 60 Minutes, calling for them to actually pay a big price following the broadcasts he claims were defamatory against him. The episode in question featured Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urging Trump to visit Ukraine to witness the devastation caused by ongoing war, and also some coverage of Greenlandic opposition to Trump's proposal for the U.S. acquisition of territory. Two big things that are kind of important to him. A, making the deal to end the war in Ukraine and give Putin what he basically wants, and B, getting Iceland, getting Greenland, getting all that from what's going on. In a Truth Social post, he labeled CBS as out of control and urged the Federal Commission Chairman Brendan Carr to impose maximum fines and punishment for what describes as unlawful and illegal behavior. It's not. He also criticized CBS, 60 Minutes and CBS for dishonest political operatives simply as disguising it as news in a way. It is news regardless of whether you think it's dishonest or operative or not. Confirmation adds the ongoing legal tensions between Trump and CBS. Source: Trump filed a $20 billion lawsuit against CBS and its parent company, Paramount Global, alleging that the deceptive editing of Vice President Kamala Harris's interview led to election tampering in the election he actually won. Not the one he didn't win that he says he won, the one he actually won just now. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Now, Chairman Carr is initiating an investigation in CBS on various practices related to the Harris interview. Right now, has not jumped on the bandwagon for this last interview. It just happened 2 days ago, so it takes a little time to get things going. We'll see if maximum punishment and fines will come from interview with Zelensky and talking about Greenland becoming part of the United States, which are issues, I guess. Quick pause in the action for you chance to give a like, share, and subscribe to what's going on. Do you like what we're providing? Do you like the way this is going? I'm not seeing any comments saying I don't have any issues with sound or glitching or things like that. So hopefully we got a good go today. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, we need you to help us grow the base in our News Nerd Nation, and like this video coming down live, or like anything we produce in our feeds. This comes down on X, comes down on Facebook and on YouTube. Like it so that I can see that I am doing the right things, the right stories, right things coming into you, your eyes and ears, and you can tell the algorithms that this is good enough to share, and they'll share it with more people and get more people in. If you know people that would like this type of stuff or hate watch it, because we're there as well, share it with them directly so that we can get more people engaged with what's going on. Maybe they'll like and share as well. If you're not getting this directly in your feed, whether it's the replay live or the replay, or this new live edition that's back in action around 5:30 a.m. Central Time, subscribe so as we go live or as we produce our hot takes, whatever, you get a chance to see it in your feeds. Like, share, and subscribe so we can grow our News Nerd Nation. Our story at number 5 today: a newly minted $100,000-aire, because if this was a man in the NBA, it'd be a millionaire. We're going with UConn star Paige Bueckers, who is now the #1 overall draft pick by the Dallas Wings for the WNBA. So pretty soon she's going to get to work making bigger real money. But as we saw with Caitlin Clark, there was kind of a shift in losing some NIL money, but the endorsements made up for it. Now, she is not Caitlin Clark, and that may be something that may be pretty obvious going forward, but she's pretty damn good, and she's going to have a chance to lead the Dallas Wings to hopefully some greater times going forward. The draft held last night in New York City. This marks a significant milestone in Bueckers' career and has a significant impact on the Wings' and future performance. Now, other big names that were actually pulled further away were a reunion of a great star from LSU, as Angel Reese gets her sidekick back to take the sky to do some great things, and 3 stars from Alabama all got drafted. So that tells you how people were keeping an eye on the women's game in the draft going forward. For Bueckers herself, her headlines for the Huskies and their 12th NCAA championship they just won just days ago. Highest career scoring average in history, 19.8 points per game. Set 477 points in tournament, so that's a record. So they're getting big numbers and getting a big talent going forward for the Wings. How will they be able to play forward in general? We'll find out. But so far, the Wings, who finished last year with a 9-31 record, could use someone like Bueckers to make things better right now. Let's give it up to the ladies, as the 6-woman all-female crew of Blue Origin flew up the sky in that flake-looking spacecraft, floated around for 11 minutes, came back down, and Katy Perry, of course, kissed the ground after all that time. Now, we are headlines talking about Katy Perry, Gayle King, and Lauren Sánchez. Katy Perry, the pop star; Gayle King, the current anchor at CBS This Morning; and Lauren Sánchez, a former TV anchor who is now, of course, the fiance of Mr. Jeff Bezos, the man who owns that rocket. We also have to give the actual flowers to the actual scientists who were on the actual flight as well. Aerospace engineer Aisha Bowe, activist Amanda Nguyen, and film producer Kieran Flynn. More serious, if you will, and then get the headlines because they're not as famous. But all 6 women did make fame and make history yesterday with a sort of flight that lasted officially 10 minutes and 21 seconds, going 66 miles above the atmosphere, above the Earth's surface. So technically in space, weightless, floating around, Katy Perry singing "What a Wonderful World," all the great stuff happening that you expect for. Now, it was the 11th flight of this Blue Origin thing, and what made this interesting was the fact that the women were on it. So it brought a little more attention to this actual mission, to this actual ship, to what's going on, which is great. So people don't forget about it. Now, what does it do for folks? Many in the social media was like, well, that's great, but aren't there starving people like everywhere? And we spent a couple $1 billion to send Bezos' fiance into space for 10 minutes. Which, yeah, that happened. And to watch Oprah Winfrey on the ground make funny, shocked faces, making sure everything was good. And yeah, that happened. And to let Katy Perry sing in space. Yes, that happened. But to sort of, be devil's advocate, step by step, move by move, these are steps to get closer to doing more actual things in space, more than just the tourism part, which hopefully at some point the tourism may actually go along to someone else and make money for other things, but to do more things that are more scientific, things that are more engaging going forward. We shall see if that actually becomes a thing. We will see, essentially. But for right now, what we got is what we got. Congratulations to the ladies. The women did a great thing. One person flew it, more or less, while it was controlled by folks at land. Otherwise, we've got more things to see. On Capitol Hill yesterday, Mark Zuckerberg took a little time to testify in his antitrust trial. With a testimony on the books with him saying, or him referencing, Facebook isn't really for friends anymore. In the landmark antitrust trial, because CEO of Meta may have to end up selling some of his properties because antitrust, essentially they couldn't find a way to build it, so they bought other people out to get rid of them and get rid of other things. Facebook had to have some testimony from Mark Zuckerberg, and he, in the evolution of the platform, from personal connections to broader content, discovery, and entertainment. In words that actually came out of his mouth, he stated, "The friend part has gone down quite a bit, acknowledging the shift in the user behavior towards engaging with content beyond their immediate social circles. The FTC is accusing Meta of monopolizing social networking market through its acquisition of WhatsApp and a buy or bury strategy for things like other things, including Instagram as well. Internal communications presented by the FTC suggests that these acquisitions were intended to neutralize emerging threats to Facebook's dominance. And one of these things, which were internally put in there, they were complaining about what TikTok was doing, what YouTube was doing, and how they could not keep up what was going on. They were so far behind, they couldn't build it. So they basically had to buy other companies that did something similar, meld them into the Meta family, not just the Facebook family, and go forward. With that, the whole thought process of friends, essentially you're following what your peeps do, even though that's what we hype here for our Facebook feed. You follow us to see what we do, isn't exactly the main purpose of Facebook anymore. So with that, what do you do going forward? That's where the antitrust comes, and maybe Facebook or Meta may have to go back to those things, because other than maybe the funny glasses you can wear to, touch people, I guess, things like WhatsApp and things like Instagram may be split a bit apart from the actual Meta family. As I said earlier, there are many stories that did not make the cut, got cut and got go forward, because we only do 8 stories for a Tuesday, and this is a story that got some attention. Basically, when I saw it pop up in the news, it made me scratch my head and go, that might mean something. That might do something. That might lead to something. And so it's here. So some other stories that were interesting, and maybe in some cases, more importantly, definitely on the financial side, because so many financial things are happening, you'll hear them in the main cast. If this is your secondary, then you'll get plenty of those. But the headline we have for story number 8, Hungary passes constitutional amendment banning LGBTQ public events. Yesterday, Hungary's parliament passed a constitutional amendment that means it is the law of the land that ban public LGBTQ plus events, including the annual Budapest Pride March. This amendment, approved by Prime Minister Viktor Orban's ruling Fidesz KDNP coalition with a two-thirds majority, is justified under the guise of protecting children's moral development. It prohibits the promotion of and displays of homosexuality to minors and grants authorities the power to use facial recognition technology to identify, potentially fine attendees for prohibited gatherings. This amendment also codifies a binary definition of gender in the Constitution, recognized that only male and female sexes. The move effectively invalidates the gender identities of transgender and intersex individuals, a decision that legal experts deem dehumanizing and discriminatory. Additionally, the amendment allows for the suspension of Hungarian citizenship for dual nations from non-European Economic Area countries if they are deemed threats to national security. You may have heard that one before. The provisions have raised concerns about potential abuses of power and the targeting of specific groups. Opposition lawmakers and civil rights groups have condemned the changes as authoritarian and politically motivated, things that Orban is known for doing and doing very publicly, if you will. They argue that these measures are distractions from deeper national issues and tactics to rally the right-wing base ahead of upcoming elections. Protests have erupted across the country, with demonstrators attempting to blockade the entrance of the parliament in opposition to the vote. International actors, including EU officials and 22 European embassies, have voiced serious concern over the restrictions on peaceful assembly and expression. Human rights organizations have called on the European Commission to take action, warning that severe consequences for the LGBTQ plus visibility and civil liberties against Hungary are in danger. Despite the ban, organizers of Budapest's Pride have vowed to continue their efforts. They're going to keep having the parade, declaring the policies as rooted in authoritarianism and rather than being for child protection. They're basically using the front to just not have the parade. They argue that the measure does little to protect children and are being used to distract from more serious problems facing the country. This is something that may turn into something a little bit bigger around the world, if you will. So pay attention. This one's not going away. It is time to do the teaser section of our portion here, the teaser part that we do. And this is being back to the live thing. I can press the buttons and do this. Once I get the right one. Follow the feeds. There we go. Awesome. So what we do to get these stories here every single day, Monday it's 10 stories, the rest of the week it's 8 stories, is we get your assistance. We ask you to tell us what the stories to talk about. It's that simple. We put our stories on what we call our feeds on Facebook and X. Facebook.com/This Conversation Project. I know that says Twitter. I'll fix it. X.com/TH_conversation. And what we do every 50 minutes or so is we provide for you a link, a something to see, an article from various places on various news topics. Some of them are maybe you'll like, some of them maybe you won't like, some of them make you think a little bit. Some of them are a little shocking to the point that it's like, why do we pick that? Well, we picked it for you to help us pick whether it comes out on the main program, things you might have heard. So as you go through our feeds every single day, we still want you checking out your friends and checking out us on Facebook and X. You just engage in it. Like it, love it, hate it, share it. The more you engage in a story, the better chance we have of talking about it because the literal engagement score goes up. Now, props up to Elon Musk and the X platform, which added in somewhere in the last couple of weeks, I guess, some advancements to its actual links for engagement and links for our stats, because I'm able to actually download stats and sort stats again like I could before X was bought out. So thank you, Elon, for that. And as I said in the post yesterday, thank you, Elon, for keeping team content alive, even if what you're doing is not so great for us. That's it for all the props I have. Oh, the story we're teasing. Female soldier becomes the first woman to compete in the grueling Army Ranger contest. I believe she's a West Point grad, and she's going to fight to be a ranger. It looks like she's going to see what happens. And she has to essentially meet all the standards the males will meet in this one. So we're going to keep an eye on this one, see how well she does. First one to compete, probably won't win it, but first one to compete means first one to go through it. And once we know one woman can get so far, it's up to them to go even further and keep going. So there's that. What did we not talk about? Well, technically, we talked about it. We bumped Trump administration saying it was not required to help the wrongly deported man return to the U.S. We talked about the actual president of El Salvador saying he's not going to do much on it, and the Trump administration saying, well, we'll send a plane, maybe, but it's up to that guy, and that guy says no. So if you want to get a story from anywhere across the thing, we post new stories every 50 minutes, so we get about 31, 32 stories within a 30-hour period of time. Check it out at our website or for the links to our feeds, which are on Facebook and X, and keep going. If you don't like the stories we actually talk about, like today, they may not have been all that exciting, email me at the conversation inbox at gmail.com, and we can chat up what stories would have been better for today. Our spotlight sponsor for the day is Robinhood, and Robinhood is doing what it's doing to stay relevant, but also doing what it's doing to keep you going forward in your relevancy for your earnings, for your investments, what's going on. Now, the disclaimer all the time, investments have a chance of losing money. They don't always go up, and Robinhood is putting this in your hands because it's not a broker. It's not any not any extra research except for they have given articles and thought processes. If you buy a stock and it goes down, it goes down. You buy crypto and it goes down, it goes down. This is all on you. But if you need to get a greater grasp of your actual finances, your investments, and maybe start an IRA on your own, Robinhood is the place to do that one. And if you use our link, this is theconversationproject.com/Robinhood. We get a small commission, so it helps us along the way. You will get a free stock regardless if you join Robinhood once you put that first deposit down. And with all the great features, new stuff, including Robinhood Gold, you get all the tools that you need to trade like the big boys and some extra savings things going for it as well. I am a member of Robinhood Gold, and I was kind of skeptical myself because I was wondering, is it really worth the extra money? Am I going to get anything out of it? So far, it looks like it's a push that I should really needed to go for. And I'm seeing more things from more tools and more money-wise tools that are there for you. So you don't have to get the whole bang, caboodle, the whole thing completely, but you do have to click the link and take the link for yourself to get this on this great deal for yourself if you deem this worthy for yourself. This is conversationproject.com/Robinhood for your chance to get yourself in better control of your own destiny for stocks. Conversation Project lives online at this is theconversationproject.com. We are glad to be able to produce you here. We will see when we do our air check exactly how well this whole thing worked going forward. We stopped doing the actual we stopped doing the live thing because it was having issues with the feed, having issues with sync issues, things like that going forward. Oh, I'm seeing a replay of J.D. Vance dropping the college football trophy and breaking it at the White House. Yeah, that's something that we didn't cover as well, which we really wanted to. But the Hungary, the Budapest story about the losing of the rights to have LGBTQ plus demonstrations or celebrations in public, thought that was a bit more important as opposed to the entertainment of J.D. Vance. We'll get to J.D. Vance later. So, but what we need from you right now is to basically follow us on the feeds, follow us on the website, see what you like going forward. Consider checking out our sponsors and our partners at the page and helping us grow going forward. With that, we're going to be happy that we had this thing go live and it worked. So we're just going to click going forward and keep on going. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, being part of the family. It's been the Tuesday, April 15th edition for 2025 of Things You Might Have Heard. We are done at 6 o'clock. That means we get a lot more stuff done early, hopefully, because that means hopefully all the things are done and the voices are good and we can just get the things on stuff. That's what we're shooting for. In the meantime, love you, mean it. Make sure you're doing your best to keep yourself running this life as a marathon, not a sprint, staying limber, staying hydrated, staying on task. We'll see how this thing looks, and we'll see if we're doing it live again, which takes a whole lot of stress off of me and maybe makes it better for you going forward for our Wednesday edition.